I begin today in Psalms 139 and verse 23 and 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties. And see if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Very short 2 verses. Let me say that again. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties, and see if there's any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. I want to talk about identifying deficits, not in your neighbor, but identifying deficits that you may know, or perhaps you may not know until you begin to examine yourself. The reason this is so very, very important is because we live our life according to what we know about ourselves or how we feel about ourselves. And we've all had those moments where we've stood in front of a full-length mirror and we may not have been very pleased with what we saw. And it might have been that mirror that spoke to you, and it spoke to you very harshly and caused you to make some changes or promise to make some changes. There's a term we use, and here I'm not being critical, but I want to kind of pull back a layer of our character, kind of give us the ability today to kind of look at ourselves truthfully, because that's really how we should see ourselves. But there's a word we use, a sentence we use. It says, I've been praying. We'll say that. I've been praying lately. And there are people that, will come and meet with me, and maybe the first thing they say is, well, we've been praying. And I don't doubt that at all. I'm not here to discredit that saying we have, that it tells of not everything we've been doing, because that's not all we're doing. We're not just praying, but it's letting somebody know there is where I'm at in my life right now. There's what I'm about to tell you about regards the fact that, I've been prayerful about this. I'm seeking God about something. And I can say to you today that, I'm a weightlifter, because I've lifted weights, but I haven't lifted weights this year. And I might have lifted weights 2 or 3 times last year. That doesn't really qualify me to say I'm a weightlifter, but technically I've lifted weights. And there was a time in high school when we were forced to do it. And I definitely, was a weightlifter, and we figured we may as well take it seriously. Some of us did. And, at that age, who doesn't want to be stronger and look stronger? But I cannot stand on that past, of when I was 14 years old and say, I'm a weightlifter. But whenever I say, I've been praying, that carries with it the connotation that it's been something that's been happening recently. And, but we use that to be able to frame what is said next, not to come across as one that has just made a great decision without any prayer at all. But I've been praying, or to let people know, I'm concerned about you. I've been praying for you. And it's something that needs to be said to kind of frame the next events or the next statements that we're going to make. And so we can say we have been praying, but not fill in the details, and we don't always need to do that. We can say we've heard from God, and no one who can judge whether or not we've heard from God. We truly feel that we have. And I can tell you that I have thought I had a word from God, and I made a different decision based on what I felt the Lord was saying, only to find out later that I probably was listening for God, but I heard my voice, or I heard my will above His. And it's through that process that we truly do learn to hear from God. And that's why when somebody tells me, I've heard from God, I don't immediately discredit that. I realize they're in a great place to learn something, to find out what God is saying in their life. And so when we say we've been praying, and we don't always need to fill in the details. We can say we've heard from God, and there's no one that's probably going to question that. We can say that we weren't able to come to church, and that's the truth. But we don't need to fill in the details about that. It's just, sometimes it may be something to where we can't name the actual reason. We're just weighted down. And, the truth might have been we were in the recliner, and we just could not get the wherewithal to get up. Mentally, we might have been stressed. We might have been carrying a load. And so we don't have to say everything that is the facts. We just need to say, this is where I'm at right now. And so it depends on the person you're talking to, how much detail that you're going to share. But the scriptures here in Psalms 139 and 23 and 24, search me, O God, and know my heart. See, that's what we don't say that to our neighbor. Most people, we don't just say, I'm about to unload everything on you, because the relationship doesn't require that. But the relationship with God does require that. And so when we go before God, it's not like our friend. It's not even like our relative and somebody in our own family. But when we go to God, the words need to be like this: search me and know me. Know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties, he said, and see if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So we have our words we use with one another, but then we have completely different words that we use for God, and it needs to truly be that way. Search me. And what we're saying is, God, for the good of our relationship and the good of my life, I want you to search me. Search me thoroughly, God, and see. And in my mind, when I say that, I have an idea of where there are some things that God needs to change. But he sees us differently than we see ourselves. He searches deep, and he knows our true motives when we really may not even be able to name one of our motives. We feel like we do, but then if we search deep, we think, I'm dealing in surface things, because we don't always understand what is behind me, pushing me in the direction I'm going. Search me. He said, try me. Hold me over the flame here and bring me to that place where impurities are taken away. We must know that God is aware of so much that we can't know and that we can't see. See, we deal with ourselves on a curved scale. We cut ourselves some slack, and when we're telling somebody about how we're doing, depending on our relationship with the person, we might say very casually, we're doing great. Well, that they're not asking to know all the details, but when we get alone with God, we need to go deep, and he needs to know the details. He needs to know our fears and anxieties. He knows them anyway, but when they're involved, those words are about our prayer life, are about our need. It's also affecting our faith. So when we go down into those depths, that place, those hidden places, and we bring that up to the Lord, those are the things that we're applying faith and asking with, so that God can deal with us according to our reality, not how we would act or what we would talk about in a casual conversation. See, Lord, where my impurities are. Take my impurities away. We must know that God is aware of much that we can't even see. We don't always know our motives. We don't know that there's maybe a hidden hurt there that's causing us to walk a certain way and to expect something that we really aren't going to be able to receive, because we deal with ourselves kind of on a curved scale. And it's necessary most of the time, I'm sure. In other words, we don't always get to the root of the matter and speak all the all gory details. We don't have to do that. But God already knows that. And we know he knows. So we can just say, Lord, I'm a mess. I'm a mess today. And I need you to deal with me according to what I am today, according to your reality. Search me and know me, God. You know all my anxieties. In Judges 16, 18 through 22, Samson had met Delilah, and they had a relationship there that he thought was just wonderful. But she was being paid by the heads of the lords of the Philistines to try to figure out where this guy got his power. We can't do anything with him. He defeats us. He's making fools of us. And so he laid his head in the lap of someone that he trusted. And he had to know after a while, whenever his hair was woven into the beam and these other matters, that they did, and binding him with new ropes and vines. And he would wake up and just tear these things apart. He knew what she was trying to get to. But little by little, Samson had to begin to think, is it really my hair? Because, I'm just very, very strong. I've got this gift from God. And are there contingencies here? Is it really based on my hair? I really feel that he had to start to doubt. I believe this my whole life. My hair has never been cut. And I worked out one time, with the average growth of the human head, hair in their head, how much weight this was. And I don't remember what the number was. It's not important. But having that much hair wrapped up on a turban, perhaps in his head, had to be a burden. His calling and his anointing had with it a burden. He probably got used to it, but he had to take care of that. And I'm wondering, was there a point where, in laying his head down and her doing all of these things, getting closer and closer to the truth, was there a point where he said, it may just be I'm just strong and God has made me strong and I'm going to be that way no matter what. And she lulled him to sleep on her knees and called for a man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. Then she began to torment him. He didn't know this, but she began to torment him. And his strength left him. And she said, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. So he awoke from his sleep and said, I will go out as before at other times and shake myself free. Now he could have known perhaps that his head suddenly felt so much lighter. And wouldn't this be great if I could still be powerful and have a haircut like a regular guy? But he didn't know that the Lord had departed from him. It didn't say he didn't know that his hair had departed. He didn't know that it was wrapped up in the vow. It was wrapped up in the fact that he had to keep that one promise that you don't drink wine and you don't let your hair ever be cut. In verse 21, it says, then the Philistines took him because he didn't know the Lord had departed. And they easily took him and put out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza. And they bound him with bronze fetters. And he became a grinder in the prison. However, the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaven. And of course, we know the end of that story. He died with a heroic display, bringing down truly the temple and killing more people in his death than in his life. But how sad it was that from just daily plying him, that she found his secret, the secret to his strength. We have to know, and we have to know it more than we know anything else, where our strength comes from. And contrary to that too, we must know where our weaknesses are. We must know ourselves. And when Delilah saw that he had truly revealed the secret of his power, she went immediately working on that one area, cutting his hair. Your adversary, the devil, walks about seeking. And that's not a fairy tale. And your nature has already been infected by him. We're born in sin, aren't we? And shapen in iniquity. We are born with a contrary nature that can be overcome by the power of the Spirit of God that he gives freely to them that ask. Our nature can be encompassed by God's Spirit. but it's a daily walk. It's a daily exercise through dedication to God in prayer. I remember maybe it was back in our other building that I had everybody take their cell phones. And I said, hold those phones up. I said, God knows what's on your phone, or he knows the access that phone gives you to things. And we're going to anoint and pray for our phones today. God had just dealt with me about something that I saw in the church. And it proved to be very much true. There were people in that congregation, more than I ever could have thought, who were dealing with issues because of what they were viewing on their phones. And just pause and say, it may be time to lift up our phones to heaven and say, God, anoint this and let it be a holy vessel that I have. Let it be a tool for good things, for moral things, for upright things. And, it's not the phone. What carrier do you have, AT&T or Verizon? No, it's not about the carrier. It's not about the brand. It's the access it gives. And we must say to God, Lord, search me and my phone and know me and see if there's anything there that might be detrimental to me. Samson's love for Delilah was greater. It became greater than his fear of losing his hair or his respect for the vow that he had from birth. It had to become weaker than his desire for this woman and to please this woman, and he lost it. We must honestly today identify our deficits. We must be truthful with ourselves. We don't need to try to please people more than we try to please God. Are you dealing with self-loathing, self-doubt? These things can be troublesome. We need to esteem ourselves correctly and understand we are children of God. And if you get to the place where your past, something out of your control perhaps has occurred in your past, and it causes a self-loathing, we must seek God's face for healing about that, because we need to count ourselves as worthy to enter his presence and claim victories for ourselves. We may be unable to get past an injury, and there's people that have issues with their past. They can't get past their past. We may need to forgive somebody. We may need to forgive ourselves. Do you have resentment toward a brother, a sister, a pastor? We need to say, God, I need to put these under the blood, and I need you to help me with this. We need to realize that God often deals with us at the center of our deficit. The thing that we're hurting at, the area that we think we're not very worthy of, the area where we feel diminished, is the very area perhaps where God is working on us. He's working to bring strength where you're weak. He's working to bring healing where you're hurting. And when you know that he's working there, you can then adjust your life and you can adjust your time to facilitate the process and allow God to complete that work that he started in you. Philippians 1:6, being confident of this very thing, that he which began a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. He's going to complete the work. How much time it takes, that's up to us. I want to say, God, today, I give you full access. Know me, Lord. See me. Let's find that if there's any wicked way in me, God, and reveal it, and let's take care of it. And I end with Hebrews 13:20-21. Now may the God of peace, who brought up our Lord Jesus from the dead, that great shepherd of the sheep, through the blood of the everlasting covenant, make you complete in every good work to do his will, working in you what is well-pleasing in his sight, through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen. God bless you all.